What's up, airplane collectors? Welcome to a special model review. It's your host Ray. In today's video, I'll be reviewing the Gemini 200, Icelandair Boeing 757-200, and the Hekla Aurora special livery. This video is being made at the request of one of my subscribers. If you see a model in my collection that you'd like me to review, you might comment that down below, and I'll get that review started as soon as I can. I should also mention that this is going to be the final model review of 2022 because after today, I will no longer have access to my model collection because I'm going somewhere for vacation, and I won't be able to film any of the models or make any reviews. So sit back, relax, and let's enjoy this final video. So here's how this video is going to go. I'm going to talk about the box, then the model, and at the end of the video I'll give my personal opinion about whether or not I recommend the model to other collectors and what I think of the model in general. Starting off with the box is the standard issue Gemini 200 757 box. It's 23 centimeters lengthwise, 23 centimeters tall, and about 8 centimeters wide. Aside from the different box art, like I said, it's the standard issue Gemini 200 box, so I'm going to show you guys around it. So here's the front, bottom, right side, top, left side. Here's the back side. Take a moment to read some of this stuff if you'd like to. The box also has a flap that you can open, and it's attached to the main box through a system of Velcro straps. And here you can see the model inside the box. Well, it's not in the box right now. And under this flap is a bit of information about the Boeing 757. Take a moment to read this if you'd like to. Once you open up the box, you get the model, a display stand, and two landing gear configuration options. One configuration for the extended position, another configuration for the retracted position. Right now I have the landing gear in the extended position, but I will demonstrate what the retracted position looks like later in the video. As for the display stand, it's an older Gemini display stand made out of wood and metal. This stand is pretty sturdy. It fits the model nicely, although the fit between the model and the stand is rather loose. This may be a result because I bought this model used, but I'm not 100% sure. You can kind of see that the model tends to lean towards the left side of the aircraft, so not sure what to think of this. I'll give you guys a quick 360 of the model before I begin the review. The fuselage length for this model is 24 centimeters, the wingspan is 19.5 centimeters, and from the ground to the top of the vertical stabilizer, the model is 7 centimeters tall. Fairly large, accurate to 1 to 200 scale, and the model is also quite heavy because it is made of primarily die-cast metal. Starting up at the nose of the aircraft, here you can see the nose profile as well as a lot of printed detail. Overall, the nose shape looks pretty solid. I have no complaints about that. It's better than what Gemini has to offer currently because for some reason the nose shapes on Gemini's current 757s is rather questionable. Moving down the fuselage, you can see a ton of both printed and what appears to be painted detail of the northern lights of the Hekla Aurora livery, all of which looks stunning and incredible. I'm very impressed at the paint job that Gemini did here. All of it looks pretty accurate. I don't notice anything out of the ordinary or anything that shouldn't be there, so that's quite good. Yeah, this seems to proceed all the way through the tail section, so very good overall. No complaints so far. Here's the vertical stabilizer. It looks pretty good overall. Paint looks good, shape looks good, printed detail looks good. Icelandair logo looks pretty nice actually, so no complaints on the vertical stabilizer. I will now show you the right side of the aircraft. It's virtually the same as the left side, so I won't provide much commentary, but everything I said about the left side also applies to the right side. Right side of the aircraft looks pretty good. If my camera would focus, that is. Sorry about that. And let's continue. Moving on to the wings of the aircraft, here's the left wing. The wings on this aircraft look incredibly detailed. There's plenty of molded detail and printed detail to go around. No complaints on that, no inaccuracies. And the molded detail is very nicely outlined and very easy to see. There's also reflective paint. I always mess up this part. There's always reflective paint on the leading edge slats, which looks really good. And overall, no complaints. The bottom of the wing is just as detailed, however, it doesn't have any printed detail. This is the bottom side of the right wing. However, the bottom side of the left wing has the aircraft's registration, so that's a nice detail to see. Here's the left winglet. The winglets on this model look pretty good. Overall paint application looks good. Printed detail looks pretty good. Here's the inside of the right winglet. No complaints, although I do see there might be a bit of an issue with the paint here. And there is a bit of an inconsistency with the paint application between the gray paint and the blue paint from the winglet. Very hard to notice, but there were a few issues there. Moving to the rear section of the aircraft, the horizontal stabilizers look pretty good. There's no printed detail on them, but there is a bit of molded detail and painted detail, which looks pretty good. APU also looks pretty good. There's actually a little hole for the APU exhaust, so that's a nice feature. And on the underside, there are the APU access doors as well as a bit more of the horizontal stabilizers. Not very detailed back here, but there's not very much to put, so I won't complain. Moving on to the engines are a nice bright yellow color, and the engines overall look pretty good. The pylons also look pretty solid. Printed detail and painted detail on these are quite incredible, actually. They're very nice. This is what the fan blades look like. There's not very much fan blade detail. The fan blades do not spin, they are glued in place. And there is no spinner spiral detail for some reason. On today's Gemini models, there are spinner spiral details, but I guess on this one, there aren't any. Here's the bottom side of the aircraft. Down here, there's a lot of printed detail and some molded detail, that molded detail being the main gear doors. Looks pretty good overall down here. I have no complaints. And there's even a little red light here that's represented as a small gem, so that's pretty nice. Speaking of lights and other external features, this model does feature both antennas and sat domes, or I should say antennas, sat domes, and 3D lights. I'll talk about all of those now. On the top of the aircraft, there is one of each. There's one antenna, one light, and one sat dome. The rest is printed detail. At the front of the aircraft, we have a red light here. It's a very small gem-like thing. Looks pretty good. And there's one antenna. Placement looks accurate. It's placed on the aircraft nicely. I don't see any bends or tilts to it, so that's good. And moving down to the rear section of the aircraft, there is one sat dome right here. Fits pretty well. There's even a few lines of printed detail on there, which looks pretty good. At the bottom of the aircraft, there are 3 antennas and 1 light. Here in the midsection of the aircraft, you can see one large antenna and the light that I pointed out a few minutes ago, and then there's another large antenna right back here. At the very rear of the aircraft, there's a very small antenna which appears to be bent inwards towards the fuselage, so I'm not sure what to make of that. This is a very small antenna, so I'd imagine it's very hard to put in that spot in the first place. Now for the landing gear. The landing gear on this model is very nicely detailed, so I won't complain about that. The wheels don't roll very smoothly. They do roll, but with a lot of pressure, so the quality control with the landing gear has been rather spotty. The landing gear attaches to the model through a system of magnets. Here's what the main gear look like, or at least the main gear. The nose gear is a different story. So they attach to the model through a system of magnets, and the fit is quite well, so they won't fall out. The nose gear, however, you might have seen earlier that it was actually falling off, and this is not how the nose gear is supposed to be designed. When I bought this model, or when I obtained this model, the nose gear here was damaged, and I had to make an improvised fix by putting foam cushions on the parts that held the gear in place. So I'm not really sure how this gear would fit out of the factory, but based on the other 757s that I've held, it fits pretty well, and it fits via a system of foam protection cushions that cause friction with the model, and it holds the gear in there. Normally it's a tight fit, but on this one it's rather loose. The nose gear on this model also does bend backward like on the real 757, so that's another detail that I feel needs to be mentioned. Here's what the landing gear looks like in the retracted configuration. The covers for the main landing gear fit on pretty well through a system of magnets, and they're quite seamless with the surface, so they're done very nicely. The nose gear is the same story. It fits on quite nicely and seamless. However, the fit is extremely loose, and if I turn the model around, it falls right out. So that definitely could use some improvement. It would take a bit of modification for the landing gear cover to fit in the model properly. I should also add that removing the main gear covers is pretty hard since there's no little hole to put a tool into so you can pluck them out. So it's extremely difficult to do, so make sure you have some sort of precision tweezers or other instrument to help you remove them. Here's the front of the model. Here we can see wing flex, cockpit window printing, and gear balance. You can see that the gear balance is rather questionable with the right side of the aircraft pointing a little bit upwards when compared to the left side. But if I do put a bit of pressure down on the model, and I guess I kind of fix it, you can see that the wing flex is pretty much symmetrical. Cockpit window printing is basically perfect. I don't see any issues with alignment there. And yeah, I have no complaints. Engine clearance looks good. And the only thing that's really messing with the model is the gear balance. And that concludes the review. Now time for my personal opinion and recommendation. Overall, the model is pretty solid. It does have a few defects here and there with paint application and the issues with the landing gear. However, this may be exclusive to my model, and regardless, the plane is absolutely beautiful. The livery is painted on pretty much perfectly. I have no complaints about paint application or printed details. So do I recommend this model? Yes, absolutely. If you can find one at a reasonable price, that is. Today in 2022, it's extremely hard to find this model at under at least 150 or 200 US dollars. So it's very expensive, and well, I hope we see some sort of re-release or restock in the future. Well, that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. And now it's, I guess, goodbye with model reviews until 2023 because I'm going on vacation, like I said earlier, and I won't have access to any of the models in my collection. So yeah, this is it. Thank you so much for watching, and if you've watched my channel for a while, thank you so much for watching all of my ridiculous content. It's been one hell of a year. I'll post a video celebrating the end of the year and the start of a new year on the last day of this year or the first day of next year, and we'll see where we go from there. Like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more model, airplane, and siren content. Take care, and I'll see you in my next video.